In recent years, we hear a lot about dominionism, about this idea that there are Christian leaders in America who want to take over the society, who want to dominate the society, who want to have dominion over the society, and basically impose their ways on the rest of the nation, some type of a theocracy, where a ruling Christian class now forces everyone else in the country to live by these beliefs and even reestablishes biblical law, Old Testament law, as the law of the country. There's an extensive article, politicalresearch.org, by Frederick Carlson, August 18th, 2016, Dominionism Rising, a Theocratic Movement Hiding in Plain Sight. And it's quite a lengthy article. It's one of the more complete articles that I've seen recently online, and it's lengthy. Obviously, I'm not going to read all of it or interact with all of it, but let me give you one quote, one defining quote from the article. Dominionism is the theocratic idea that regardless of theological camp, means, or timetable, God has called conservative Christians to exercise dominion over society by taking control of political and cultural institutions. The term describes a broad tendency across a wide swath of American Christianity. People who embrace this idea are referred to as dominionists. Now, bear in mind, they're referred to as dominionists from the outside. They're referred to as dominionists by those who differ. I've not been among people who allegedly hold to this, who identify themselves as dominionists, and I've been in meetings where some of these things are discussed, and the whole perspective is very, very different than what's being presented here. You know, Ted Cruz and his father Raphael are used as prime examples of this viewpoint. I've been in closed-door meetings. I've been in a major closed-door meeting with Senator Ted Cruz, with about, 200 major Christian leaders from around America present there, where he talked about his vision. It's not what's written here. It's not dominionism. Let me lay this out, and maybe I can help some who have a lot of fear about this understand exactly what is believed. Now, number one, many teachers will go back to what happened at the beginning of America. The beginning of America was very theocratic. In other words, when the colonies were established, they were established under God, and you could be punished, for example, for not going to church, or you couldn't hold a certain office if you weren't in church, and schools were established for the purpose of reading the Bible. Now, I don't know anyone that wants to go back to that. I'm sure there's some people out there, but there's no one that I know. There's no political leader, there's no Christian leader I know of that holds to that particular view and that wants to go back to that. What they would say, though, is that this now became incorporated into the United States of America, where there was a great reverence for God, great respect for God, great respect for the Bible. The Bible was used as a textbook in schools. Children prayed openly in the schools. There was a respect for the Christian faith. There was a recognition that there were deep Christian roots in American history. And they're saying, hey, if we can go back to that, if we can recover our respect for Scripture, if we can recover our Christian roots, it's going to be for the good of the nation. That's the first thing. The second thing is this. The earliest universities, colleges that were founded in America, be it Harvard, be it Yale, be it Princeton, be it others, they were all founded by Christians for Christians. They were founded first and foremost as seminaries to train men for ministry, and then secondly, to raise up literate Christians for every area of society. Now, if people say, we think that's great, we think it's great to raise up Christians in every area of society, what's wrong with that? What is evil about saying we think it's great for godly Christians to lead the way in scientific and medical advances in America? What's wrong with that? We think it's godly Christians to be some of the top professors in our universities, setting a great moral example and great intellectual example. What's wrong with that? You say, oh, it's the Seven Mountains theology. Well, can I address that? No, I don't particularly work with a camp or a group that holds to these specific things. I'm not in a specific camp or group. But I have friends that say, yeah, Seven Mountains, it's a great idea. What does it mean? We're going to take over. Just want to warn you, we are going to take over and establish Christian presence on every university and through the media and education, all these different mountains that are out there, the different spheres of society, and we're going to take over. No, it has nothing to do with taking over. Let me ask you a question. our universities are massively liberal today, overwhelmingly liberal. Law professors, something like 4 or 5 to 1 are Democrat versus Republican. Commencement speakers at our universities, at least 5 to 1, liberal versus conservative. And on it goes. That's just people having their influence. The media, overwhelmingly liberal. That's just people having their influences, okay? So what we say is we should have a Christian influence. Why should we let people that we differ with take over every area of society? Let's have our influence. Are we going to impose that on the world? No, we're going to have a positive, life-giving influence in the media, in the universities, in the realm of science, and in every realm there is. Let's have a positive influence and make a positive impact. Everybody else gets to have their impact. Let us have our impact. And then lastly, the issue of theonomy. There are plenty of people that hold to the so-called 7 mountain belief that there's 7 different pillars of society and that Christians should have a positive influence in every one of them, okay? It's not a matter of imposing Christianity on the nation or forcing it on the nation. It's a matter of saying, let's have the most positive influence we can in the Democratic Republic. There are those that are called theonomists, but they are a tiny, 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 tiny percentage. There's not a single person that I have worked with in 45 years as a follower of Jesus, worked with actively, that was a theonomist, okay? So I'm not even aware of major theonomists with major movements in America with large numbers of Christians, but a theonomist would say, we reestablish biblical law. That if the Bible had the death penalty for XYZ things, we reestablish that today. I do not hold to that because we are not a theocracy. We are not ancient Israel that was called out of Egypt by God with signs, wonders, and miracles, heard his words at Mount Sinai, and he made a covenant with them, and it was a very strict covenant to reveal sin and to prepare the way for the coming of the Messiah. We are not under the Sinai covenant as the nation of America, and therefore we can learn much of value from biblical law, but we do not want to impose biblical law on the nation, except where we say it's a great principle in Scripture that should also apply to us in the Democratic Republic of America today. So there are lots of quotes in this article. There's lots of research, but the way it's presented gives a very misleading position, and it's a position that I personally reject.